What's up, people? We're live. Sorry I was late a bit. YouTube don't let you do 5-minute intervals. It's either quarter to or dot on 12, which is annoying. So I want to start just a bit before then. As far as I'm aware, PMQs is meant to start at around 10 past 12, so we've got about almost 20 minutes to kill before we start. I'm waiting for them to start. So yeah. It says on this it should start at 12, so apparently there's like 10 minutes of like boring stuff and then we get into the actual questions. So yeah, we'll give it a couple minutes, see if we can get some more viewers. And yeah, you know, what do you guys think what's going to happen? Because it's not looking too good for Johnson at the moment. You've got, you know, parents coming out talking about how heartbroken they are because they couldn't see, you know, their friends, family, kind of, they couldn't say goodbye essentially. They had to do it over Zoom, which it's just not the same. So we've seen that, you know, Downing Street under pressure. Scottish Conservative Douglas Ross demands Johnson reveals right now whether he attended the lockdown. So I think Douglas Ross has put himself in an unfortunate situation of saying that, oh, you know, if, you know, what's her name? Sturgeon has... Yo, what's up, Wazifa? If Sturgeon has broken the ministerial code, then she has to resign. And, you know, he's put himself in a box because now he has to hold Johnson to that same high standard. Which is, you know, it's just a stupid move for him. Which is a dumb move because, especially... Oh, we've got 10 people here. Wow. It's crazy. People interested to see what's going to happen. So we've got that. So Douglas Ross put himself in a box. You've got... This story is very common where you've got a lot of people saying they've had enough of Johnson. Essentially, you know, him having parties and jollies whilst people couldn't say goodbye. Then we've got, you know, the leaked emails that come out. So what I'm going to do is pause the music quick.
Staff held a party at the height of lockdown. The email, sent by one of Boris Johnson's top officials, Martin Reynolds, invited over 100 Number 10 employees to a garden party. The party was planned... 100,
and the person investigating Sue Gray, potentially she was also invited to this party. We don't know if she actually went, but no doubt there would be, if she was invited, there would be an email with all of the names that were copied into that email. So her job investigating this should be fairly easy, but the problem is she has to investigate her own boss and her colleagues. And that's put her in an unfortunate situation of she cannot do her job properly. I've heard there's a video, Robert... I've heard there's a video, according to Newsnight.
Later that day,
there might be
May
a video.
The 20th, during a time when the country could only meet one other person outdoors.
You can meet one person outside your household in an outdoor public place.
Is that Oliver Dowden?
It is understood that the Prime Minister and his wife, Carrie Johnson, along with 30 to 40 staff members, gathered in the garden that evening. In May 2020, strict rules kept families apart, like Valerie from her 98-year-old mother.
This stuff here, this, you know, and you don't want to politicise people dying here, but this is political. One rule for them and one rule for us.
Who died alone in hospital.
After 10 minutes we had to go, and they rang us during the night, rang me during the night to say that she'd passed away. It was the worst passing that I could possibly have hoped for her.
Because it's not just the, you know, the people that live that suffer. It's the people who die as well. You know, die alone. You know, just hospital staff with you, who do their best to keep you alive as long as possible, but not with your family, not with the people you want to see at the end of your life, I guess.
Just 10 minutes. That's not long enough to even drink a glass of wine. Never mind about have a cheese and wine party.
This email follows allegations about staff gathering in the garden on a separate occasion, May the 15th. After a photo emerged of Johnson and his wife sitting with Number 10 staff
And the thing is, right, if this doesn't turn off Tory voters, right, if this doesn't switch them off to Boris Johnson, then they're TFGs, they're too far gone. They will never turn on him. Unless he, you know, does something stupid like increase their taxes massively. I wonder if he'll still be PM by tonight. Yeah, he will be. He will be PM, yeah. Come on, Boris, you can do it. Hey, Giovanni, hey, we ain't backing that guy, okay? You're backing the wrong dude here, alright? I don't want to hear it. Alright, so what have we got? We've got, you know, shameless performance from my guy, Michael Ellis, my local MP. Saying, you know, who's repeatedly refusing to answer a straightforward question from MPs about the Prime Minister's conduct, you know, constantly deflecting like he was Genji Shimada. We've got, so that's a repeat. We've got, you know, this from, you know, this was put out in, What's this? Labour plans to hit the constituents or any Tory MP. Oh God, that's my it just dawned on me that I'm gonna see ads like this through the post. Sorry. Oh, that made me laugh. Sorry. I didn't realise. I didn't realise this is the sort of stuff I'm gonna be seeing in the post, aren't I? It just dawned on me because he's my local MP. Sorry about that, guys. It just it's pretty funny. We've got this clip from Keir Starmer, so we're going to see where he picks this up from. So cut to this clip.
Well, somebody here isn't telling the truth.
This is about like the parties and stuff like that.
The House will have heard the Prime Minister's answer, and I remind him the Ministerial Code says, and I quote, "Ministers who knowingly mislead Parliament will be expected to offer their resignation."
He's talking about the Nolan principles.
I'll leave it there for now.
And with that, I end my turn.
Turning to another issue.
So he's saying if Boris Johnson misled the House, he should resign, and he's left it there because he needed more. I think they needed way. He wanted more credible kind of stuff about Johnson breaking the rules, but he's kind of left it as a trap to say, like, if you have misled the House of Commons, you need to go, bro. Essentially, that's what they've done. If it was a work meeting, what was Carrie doing there? I mean, I suppose they could argue that, you know, maybe she brought Johnson's kid in quickly, but she was sat down there. So, you know, the fact Carrie was there is a bit of a big problem for Johnson. Hello, RC. How's it going? Go to more. You know, the Chancellor chilling up in the north of England, I believe, and saying the Chancellor may not just be excited to be in some place, but excited not to be on the front bench at PMQs. And let's not forget here that Johnson didn't actually have any front benchers to back him. No minister has been available for the usual series of morning interviews on TV or radio today. Everything hinges on what the PM says at PMQs. It's the second time in a month that ministers had to be pulled from interviews due to devastating party relations, because they don't want to back him. That's why. They don't want to back him. If they wanted to back him, they would have went out on TV. They would have went on TV. Just like Michael Ellis had to go out. He didn't have to go out and back Johnson. He chose to, because he's a top Tory lapdog. That's what he is. But he's not a minister anymore. So what that tells you is that they will always, you know, the fact that ministers haven't been able to go on TV, it's not because they can't. It's because they choose not to, because they don't know how to back him on this, or they don't want to show publicly they support him on this, the party issue. And that's why the next time ministers go on TV, they should be asked about the party issue. Have we cut to PMQs yet? It looks like we're going to be starting soon on PMQs. Here we go. He's got some dude talking.
And geography can contribute towards inequality.
Are you boring, pal? And I don't know what this lanyard's about. There's probably something political there, or maybe an exemption. I'm not sure.
How does the Minister expect this programme to reduce those inherent inequalities which have disadvantaged people in Blackpool for decades?
Well, he's not going to care, because, first of all, if you're in Blackpool, why the hell are you voting Tory? Second of all, I don't think they really care about solving inequalities.
My honourable friend is absolutely right. Often where you live has a bigger impact on your outcomes
Yeah, mainly because of you guys.
than anything else. For example, the wage gap between London and the North West is £5.22 on average an hour. We are examining the drivers between these disparities, and we've appointed...
It's you guys are causing the disparity, mainly. Look in the mirror, it's you.
Catherine Burblesing to lead the Social Mobility Commission to help propose the policies that are going to sort this out.
Very much, Mr. Speaker. As the co-chair of the APPG for BAME businesses, I've been working closely with the Special Advisor, Diana Crouch, to identify and address the barriers that BAME entrepreneurs experience in accessing finance. A significant issue is the lack of data collected by banks and other institutions on the ethnicity of business owners. Will the Secretary of State meet with me and the APPG to discuss how better collection of business owners' ethnicity data can be driven forwards across government?
Who cares?
Minister.
I'd be very keen to hear what the APPG thinks are the solutions to this issue.
When does it kick off? 10 past. So you got enough time to make yourself some tea, Buxton. So let's go. Wonder who will be PM after this. My money's on. Oh, I already answered that. I think it's Liz Truss. Just accept your peasant status, man. You'll find it liberating once you let the lords and masters carry on lording and mastering. I recommend the blue pill. Starmer has the juice on Johnson in that old clip, just waiting for Johnson to walk straight into the trap. Facial accusers like an honourable MPs are meant to. What about all the MPs and ministers who rolled out in front of media who are then made into liars, saying that no rules were broken. Exactly. POR. That's the problem. That's when they don't want to. That's the trap they don't want to fall into. I recommend you guys make yourself some tea or whatever you guys like to drink, because yeah, we got some time to kill.
She will know that collecting ethnicity data is a sensitive issue and it's not something that all people want to do, but I'm very happy to work with her.
I mean, it's pointless doing that, but okay.
APPG to find out more about how we can come to
Liz Truss actually wearing a mask. Surprising.
Stephen Metcalfe. Mr. Speaker, does my right honourable friend agree that by increasing diversity in the STEM sector, it's not only good for the individual who will benefit from well-paid, creative, rewarding jobs, but it brings a wealth of talent and creativity to an ever more important sector itself?
There we go, it's Johnson here speaking.
To Jack Dromey.
Mr. Speaker.
Well, sir. Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I know that the whole House will want to join me in paying tribute to Jack Dromey. His working life was devoted to his trade union members and, in recent years, his constituents in Birmingham, Erdington.
We're just going to full screen this.
I was deeply saddened to hear of his death.
I mean, he looks a mess, but doesn't he always look like that?
My thoughts are with Harriet and the family and all those who knew him as a friend. Mr. Speaker, I want to apologise.
To absolutely nobody. Here we go.
I know that millions of people across this country have made extraordinary sacrifices over the last 18 months. I know the anguish that they have been through, unable to mourn their relatives, unable to live their lives as they want, or to do the things they love. And I know the rage they feel with me and with the government I lead when they think that in Downing Street itself the rules are not being properly followed.
When they think. He hasn't acknowledged any kind of guilt here. When they think rules have been broken. Let's see where he goes with this.
By the people who make the rules. And though I cannot anticipate the conclusions of the current inquiry, I have learned enough to know that there were things we simply did not get right.
There's an admission of guilt there. Things we did not get right. Okay. Priti Patel's like, what? We admit to when we went wrong?
And I must take responsibility.
What? Take responsibility? Who is this guy?
Number 10 is a big department with the garden as an extension of the office, which has been in constant use because of the role of fresh air in stopping the virus. And when I went into that garden just after 6 on the 20th of May, 2020, to thank groups of staff before going back into my office 25 minutes later to continue working.
So he sat there for 25 minutes to say thank you.
I believed implicitly that this was a work event. But
he's thrown them under the bus. He's thrown them all under the bus. That's what he's done. He's thrown them all under the bus by saying, I thought it was a work event, but they're the ones who brought their own booze and things like that. He's going to deny all knowledge of it. Oh my God. Oh, this is brutal.
With hindsight, I should have sent
Keir Starmer will tell you about hindsight, according to Johnson.
Everyone back inside.
True,
I should have found some other way to thank them. And I should have recognised that even if it could be said technically to fall within the guidance, there would be millions and millions of people who simply would not see it that way. People who suffered terribly. People who were forbidden from meeting loved ones.
Now he's blaming the public. He's saying the public are perceiving it wrong. He's saying like the public will perceive this wrong. This is a work gathering. Now he's trying to blame the public's perception of it. Jesus.
At all, inside or outside. And to them and to this House, I offer my heartfelt apologies. And all I ask is that Sue Gray be allowed to complete her inquiry into that day and several others. So that
Bro, just tell us if you were there, man. Just tell us if you were there. Straightforward.
The full facts can be established. And I will, of course, come back to this House and make a statement. Mr. Speaker, this morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. In addition to my duties in this House, I shall have further such meetings later today.
Exactly. You know, he's saying he thought it was a work event. It's interesting. A lot more Tories are wearing masks now, though. Have a look. All of them, pretty much. Well, apart from this dude. And yeah, pretty much all of them. Even like this not Boris Johnson guy over here.
My constituent Carol Ridgway faces 8 weeks of stress and worry as she waits for an urgent appointment at the local breast clinic in North Wales. Yet, despite the pandemic, 85% of patients in England wait only 2 weeks for their urgent suspected cancer referrals.
He's going to blame Labour, isn't he?
What can my right honourable friend do to ensure equality of healthcare across Britain?
I think he's going to blame Labour.
Prime Minister.
He's in
I
Wales.
thank my honourable friend for his question. I'm sorry about the case that he raises. Of course, health is a devolved matter, but I thank our NHS colleagues across the whole of the UK, and I point out that the Welsh Government will benefit from an additional 3.8 billion of funding this year, plus a further 270 million to support the response to COVID, Mr. Speaker.
Is that going to go to Dido Harding, though? Where's that money actually going to go?
Don't come to leave.
I mean, no, it's to not spread COVID, really. I mean, they have to actually look like they care about COVID, even though there's like a full house here, which I suppose, stupid.
The opposition.
That's Rees-Mogg's fault, to be honest.
Keir Starmer.
Let's go.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And can I join with the comments about Jack Dromey? We will, I think, be doing tributes. Deception. We have it. After months of deceit and deception, the pathetic spectacle of a man who's run out of road. His defence,
like the stream people,
that he didn't realise he was at a party. It is so ridiculous that it's actually offensive to the British public.
Okay.
He's finally been forced to admit what everyone knew, that when the whole country was locked down, he was hosting boozy parties in Downing Street. Yes. Is he now going to do the decent thing and resign?
Oh, shut out. That's a big question right there. That was a good one. Okay. He's got. I think that's a great question. Let's see how Johnson reacts to this. What are they standing up for? Sit down. You have seats. Honestly.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it is...
Hancock when?
I think somebody will be going for an early cup of tea as well. Can I just say, the question's been asked. I want to know the answer. Your constituent, Prime Minister.
Boo this guy.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I appreciate the point that he's making about the event that I attended.
He admits he was there. That's the first thing. That's the first step. So he's admitted he was there. Okay.
To repeat that, I thought it was a work event, and
How could there be a work event with wine and cheese, bro? You were sat there for 25 minutes, right? There was not a lot of social distancing going on where Matt Hancock was. In fact, there were 4 of you around a table, or 5 if you count Big Wilf. Weren't there? You, Dom, the guy doing the meme thing, the is this a butterfly meme pose? So honestly, how can you claim it's a work event when there's wine and cheese? Unless you regularly have wine and cheese at work events. That's the only way you can spin that.
I regret very much that we did not do things differently.
So why is it that you denied it in the first instance, and then now when we've got photos and other things, now you're like, well, I was there and it was a work event, and I deeply regret it, and he's blaming the staff for it. Honestly.
That evening, Mr. Speaker, as I've said, and I take responsibility and I apologise.
You didn't take responsibility though, because it wasn't a work event. It wasn't a work event. You're not taking responsibility. You're throwing everyone else there under a bus. That's what you're doing.
But as for his political point, I don't think that he should preempt the
his political point
outcome of the inquiry, and he will have a further opportunity, Mr. Speaker, I hope, to question me as soon as possible.
Keir Starmer.
Well, that apology was pretty worthless, wasn't it? Let me tell him why this matters. Yesterday, in this chamber, honourable members told heart-wrenching stories about the sacrifices people across the country were making. This House and the whole country were moved by the honourable member for Strangford, as he talked about his mother-in-law dying alone. He was following the rules, whilst the Prime Minister was partying in Downing Street. Is the Prime Minister really so contemptuous of the British public that he thinks he can just ride this out?
Mr. Speaker, I heard the testimony of the honourable member opposite, and I echo his his sentiments, it was deeply moving. Nobody who heard that could fail to have been moved. And
except you, Johnson.
I know that people up and down the country made huge sacrifices throughout this pandemic.
Look at the bags under his eyes as well. Is that normal? Does he normally look like that? He looks like he didn't sleep all night. Rob looks fairly similar. I mean, these guys not sleep. I know it's not because they're working hard.
Mr. Speaker, and I understand the anger, the rage that they feel at the thought that that people in Downing Street were not following those rules. I regret the way the event I have described was handled. I bitterly regret it and wish that we could have done things differently.
The moment you saw there was wine and cheese there and people not socially distancing, you should have told them to go home. That's what you should have done. You should have told them to go home or go back to their offices where they're socially distanced. What you did is create a a spreader event, not a super spreader event because you weren't indoors, but a spreader event.
And I have and will continue to apologise for what we did. But Mr. Speaker, he must wait for the inquiry, which will report as soon as possible.
He doesn't have to wait for the inquiry, bro. We know you were there. We know you were there. This is typical Johnson. This is what he did with Lord Guy. He's going to probably lie during the investigation because there's no consequences of lying. Honestly. Probably in the red box.
Mr. Speaker, when the Prime Minister's former Health Secretary broke the rules, he resigned.
Burn. Burn. Burn right there. Burn. Oh, yeah, so am I, RC.
And the Prime Minister said he was right to do so. When the Prime Minister's spokesperson laughed about the rules being broken, she resigned. And the Prime Minister accepted that resignation. Why does the Prime Minister still think that the rules don't apply to him?
Well, Mr. Speaker, that's not what I've said, and I understand the point that he makes. As I've said, Mr. Speaker, I regret the way things happened on the evening in question, and I apologise. But if I may say to him, I do think it would be better if he waited until the full conclusion.
How long, bro? How long is that investigation going to take? How long is it going to take? A year? 6 months? Joker. Honestly, this happened last year. God, man, this man. He's going to make me lose my hair.
Before this House, Mr. Speaker, and he will then have an opportunity to put his points again.
He didn't answer the question, did he? Speaker, make him answer the question.
Isn't working, Prime Minister. No. Everyone could see what happened. Exactly. It started with reports of boozy parties in Downing Street during lockdown. The Prime Minister pretended that he had been assured there were no parties. Yeah. How that fits with his defence out, I do not know. Exactly. Then the video landed, blowing the Prime Minister's first defence out of the water.
What video? Is it the one about Allegra Stratton?
So then he pretended he was sickened and furious about the parties.
That's great. Wait, we'll go back again.
He pretended he was sickened and furious.
Oh, whoever told Starmer to get some personality did a great job. That's some GCSE level acting there.
The water. So then he pretended he was sickened and furious about the parties. Now it turns out he was at the parties all along.
Oh, that's a pretty good setup piece there.
Prime Minister see why the British public think he's lying through his teeth.
How many questions? That 3?
Prime Minister, it was what the public think, not what a member is saying. Order. And I certainly don't need any help from round here. If somebody wants to help me, they can help somewhere else. Prime Minister.
That was such a deadline. You need to work on that, pal. You need to work on your job as a whole, though, really.
Mr. Speaker, it's up to the right honourable gentleman to choose how he conducts himself in this place.
I mean, it's not. No, the Speaker decides that for the most part, really. What happened here? One second.
Can't the Prime Minister see why the British public think he's lying through his teeth?
Prime Minister, it was what...
Something was said here, but I can't quite. I don't know what it was. But yeah, Okay, let's go back. Sorry, guys, I know I'm going backwards and forwards a bit.
Mr. Speaker, it's up to the right honourable gentleman to choose how he's wrong in this place. He's wrong. He's wrong. I say to him that he is wrong.
Wrong. Now we're going full Donald Trump.
He is wrong in what he has said he said what he is wrong what he said is wrong in several key respects. But Mr. Speaker, that does not.
How do you know he's wrong if Sue Gray hasn't done the investigation? How can you say he's wrong? It doesn't make any sense. If you're telling him don't make any conclusions because you have to wait for the investigation, surely you can't say he's wrong until the investigation happens. Hey, but I suppose they are investigating you, so maybe you know more than let on.
Detract from the basic point that I want to make today, which is that I accept that we should have done things differently on that evening.
So that's a good admit to go. We should have done things differently. That includes him in it. Okay, that includes himself. Okay.
Said to the House, I believe that the events in question were within the guidance and were within the rules, and that was.
No, he didn't. You just said there was no party. I'm pretty sure that's what he said.
Certainly the assumption on which I operated, but can I say to him, Mr. Speaker, that he should wait. He should wait.
Oh my God! He should wait until the investigation's been done.
Before he jumps to conclusions, Mr. Speaker, a lawyer should respect.
I was gonna say. I was just thinking that. Is he gonna use the lawyer line on him? And he did. Oh.
The inquiry. I hope that he will wait until the facts are established and brought to this House.
I think this is the fourth or fifth question.
Mr. Speaker, so we've got the Prime Minister attending Downing Street parties, a clear breach of the rules. We've got the Prime Minister putting forward a series of ridiculous denials which he knows are untrue. Yes. A clear breach of the ministerial code. That code says ministers who knowingly mislead Parliament will be expected to offer their resignation. The party's over, Prime Minister. The only question is, will the British public kick him out? Will his party kick him out?
Hey, that's what I'm saying. You gotta go for the backbenchers as well. You gotta make a case to the backbenchers. Is this your guy? How do you go back to your constituencies and justify his actions? Go on.
Will he do the decent thing and resign?
I think he's gotta push the backbenchers a lot more to make a decision, and push the front bench a lot further to shiv him essentially.
Mr. Speaker, I just want to repeat that I think that the right honourable gentleman, I know that it is his objective, and he's paid to try to remove me from office.
What? He's like, oh, he's playing politics. How dare he? Me. What is this?
Mr. Speaker, and I appreciate that, and I accept that. But may I humbly suggest to him that he should wait until the inquiry has concluded. He should study it for himself. And I will certainly respond as appropriate, and I hope that he does. But in the meantime, yes, Mr. Speaker, I certainly wish that things had happened differently on the evening of May the 20th.
Do you think he knows what's in the inquiry already? Like, do you think he knows the conclusion or something? Because it does feel like he's going to come back and try and take a victory lap over this.
Mr. Speaker, and I apologise for all the misjudgments that have been made, for which I take, Mr. Speaker, full responsibility.
Keir Starmer.
The Prime Minister's a man without
This must
shame.
be the last one.
The public want answers to their questions. Yeah. Hannah Brady's father, Sean, was just 55 when he lost his life to COVID. He was a fit and healthy key worker. I spoke to Hannah last night, Prime Minister. Her father died just days before the drinks trolley was being wheeled through Downing Street. And last year, Hannah met the Prime Minister in the Downing Street garden. She looked at the Prime Minister in the eye and told him of her loss. The Prime Minister told Hannah he'd done everything he could to protect her dad. Looking back, what Hannah told me last night was this. She realises that the Prime Minister had parted in that same garden the very day her dad's death certificate was signed. What Hannah wants to know is this.
I think what he should have said was what Hannah and many others who also lost family members want to know is, let's see how he ends.
Does the Prime Minister understand why it makes her feel sick to think about the way that he's behaved?
It's a good question. It's a good question. The problem is Johnson's going to deny that he thought it was a party. He's going to go back to, I thought it was a work gathering and all this nonsense. So, yeah, a good showing from Starmer. I think he could have done better in some areas, but let's go on and see what Johnson has to say.
Mr. Speaker, I sympathise deeply with Hannah, with people who have suffered up and down this country during the pandemic, and I repeat that I wish things had been done differently on that evening, Mr. Speaker.
What about the other evenings? There were alleged parties as well.
I repeat my apology for all the misjudgments that may have been made, that were made on my watch in Number 10 and across the government. But I want to reassure the people of this country, including Hannah and her family, that, Mr. Speaker, we have been working to do everything we can to protect her and her family. And it is thanks to the efforts of this government that we have the most tested population.
I think the highest deaths per capita in Europe, so read into that.
In Europe,
highest death rate per capita in Europe.
Tests being conducted every day.
We ran out of tests, but okay.
Working to ensure that this population, our country, has the most antivirals of any country in Europe.
We're struggling to get through medicines, as far as I know of, through the Dover-Calais crossing, or at least we will be, but okay, go on.
And, Mr. Speaker, it's because of the efforts of the government, of officials, of staff up and down Whitehall, that we've driven the fastest vaccine rollout in...
Driven the fastest vaccine rollout, but we don't have the highest vaccination rate per capita. That's not even true, actually, because I think Israel had a faster rollout than we did, so that's not even true what he's saying.
Europe, one of the
in Europe,
fastest
okay.
in the world. And that is the reason, Mr. Speaker, that we now have one of the most open economies, if not the most open economy.
And we have one of the highest COVID spreads in per capita in the world as well. So that's great, Johnson. That's great. Open economy, COVID spreading everywhere, hospitals filling up. Yeah, we're doing really great, man.
In Europe, and one of the fastest growing economy, Mr. Speaker, in the G7. And, Mr. Speaker, whatever the mistakes that have been made on my watch, for which I apologise and which I fully acknowledge.
You didn't apologise or acknowledge.
Mr. Speaker, that has been going on in Number 10 Downing Street.
What? Where's Blackford? Was he in Blackford?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
What?
Education is one of the biggest factors when it comes to levelling up. It's what ensures that people right across the country have access to the same opportunities, and it's a key part of my mission to transform lives in Burnley and Padiham. With that in mind, would the Prime Minister work with me to ensure that Burnley becomes the best place to study, whether you're in primary and secondary school, looking for an apprenticeship in advanced engineering, or undertaking a degree in
Where's he in Blackford? Anyone know?
Yes, I thank my honourable friend, and we're investing fantastic.
Here we go.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And can I add my remarks in terms of Jack Dromey, someone who was a festy fighter for workers' rights and an inspiration to so many of us across this House.
Was he the Labour MP who passed?
Conducted himself. We will miss him, and condolences to Harriet and to the rest of the family. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister stands before us accused of betraying the nation's trust, of treating the public with contempt, of breaking the laws set by his own government. A former member of Her Majesty's Armed Forces, Paul, wrote to me this morning.
Okay.
His father died without the love and support of his full family around him because they followed the regulations, Prime Minister. Paul said, as an ex-soldier, I know how to follow the rules, but the Prime Minister has never followed any rules. He does what he wants, and he gets away with it every time. The Prime Minister can't get away with it again. Will the Prime Minister finally do the decent thing and resign, or will his Tory MPs be forced to show him the door?
Again, I would be targeting the backbenchers a lot more. Why is this, what's his name, man? Piece of Bone, or whatever his name is. Why are you standing up, bro? You have a seat. Sit down.
Well, I thank the right honourable.
What are they doing?
I want to offer my condolences to his constituent who wrote to him, and just to remind him of what I've said earlier. And with the greatest respect to him, I think that he should wait until the inquiry has concluded.
In Blackford,
It's an open and shut case. It's an event that should have taken place. It broke the law, Prime Minister. And what's so galling about that response is that the Prime Minister feels no shame for his actions. The public suffered pain and anguish at being kept apart from their families. All the while, the Prime Minister was drinking and laughing behind the walls of his private garden. The public overwhelmingly think that the Prime Minister should resign. Trust has been lost, and the public will not forgive or forget. If the Prime Minister has no sense of shame, then the Tory backbenchers must act to remove him. They know the damage is done. This weak and contentious Prime Minister can no longer limp on. The message from the public is clear. Remove this unfit Prime Minister from office and do it now.
Prime Minister.
Well, I just want to thank the right honourable gentleman for his political advice, which I will take with a pinch of salt since it comes from the Scottish Nationalist Party. But I think that most people looking objectively at what this government has delivered over the last 18 months would agree and I renew my contrition for the mistakes that have been made, but we have delivered the fastest vaccine and the fastest...
There we go, vaccine rollout. Well done, RC. You want to point there? Oh, no, wait, he said that earlier, didn't he? There's one point to RC there, vaccine rollout, here we go.
Booster rollout in Europe, and the result is that across our whole of our United Kingdom, Mr. Speaker, we have a record number of people back in work.
Simon Fell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
We'll let this run for a few more minutes.
The Chief Executive of my local hospital trust, the University Hospitals in Morecambe Bay, to talk about how they were managing COVID and the impact it was having on them. The impact is stark. They've got about 12 to 15% of their workforce away isolating, and 140 beds, that's about 20% of the total, blocked because they can't get people back out into social care and the community.
Hi, Jimmy.
So with that in mind, will my right honourable friend consider reducing the self-isolation period?
Oh my God. Wow. Oh yeah. Well, what's a great idea, right? Oh yeah, people that have COVID, right? Let's reduce the self-isolation period, right? So they can go back to work and spread COVID even more around, so then more people have to self-isolate and may get sick. What a genius idea. Who's this douchebag? What's this man's name? Sorry, Zafe, if you're still watching. Sorry about language, but honestly, this man's a clown.
A record number of people back in work.
Simon Fell.
Simon, like, what? Who's voting for this joker? Honestly, why are you voting for this clown? He wants to reduce the self-isolation period so people can go back into work, right? Because the hospitals can't operate properly. Instead of looking at why the hospitals are underfunded and struggling so much, he's like, oh, what you should do is send people back into work so then they'll spread COVID around more and then more people get sick. It's a negative spiral, hence why the self-isolation period was created in the first place. But my name is Simon, I'm so smart. Haha, me.
12 to 15% of their workforce away isolating, and 140 beds, that's about 20% of the total, blocked because they can't get people back out into social care and the community. So with that in mind, will my right honourable friend consider reducing the self-isolation
What a
period,
stupid idea from a stupid person, honestly.
if it's seen to be safe to do so, down to 5 days?
Okay, if it's seen to be safe to do so, maybe he gets a slight pass there. But honestly, reducing it to 5 days is just dumb.
And also accepting any MACA requests which come through to help get people back out into the...
So a man's like, oh yeah, what we're going to do is if people want to go back in, we should let them back in. Like, no, there's a reason why we have a self-isolation period. There's a reason why, so you don't go around spreading the virus. That's the whole point of it. Otherwise, you might as well just get rid of it entirely then and just have a COVID free-for-all at that point. Force workers to go back into work. Honestly. So stupid, these people.
The community and into social care.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, well, we're certainly looking at reducing the isolation period.
What a stupid idea.
To bring you more, Mr. Speaker, about that as fast as possible. We'll certainly look at all MACA requests, but more fundamentally, what we can do to alleviate the pressures in his hospital is to fix the health and social care divide, which is what this government is also doing after a generation of neglect.
A generation, more like a decade of your neglect from your party, you joker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today's apology is too little, too late. If the Prime Minister was sincere He could have apologised at any stage
Braveheart, we can't
over
see
the
you.
past
Here we
18
go.
months, rather than waiting until he was found out. My constituents in North Down and people across the UK feel betrayed by the Prime Minister. We've had over 150,000 deaths from COVID over the past couple of years. We have seen standards in public life trashed. So for once, can the Prime Minister do the honourable thing and resign for the sake of the public health message and for standards in our democracy?
It's a good question. Okay, good question.
Mr. Speaker, I can only repeat what I've said, and I understand the feelings he has about the effect of this pandemic on this country, and I certainly grieve for everybody who's died and who has suffered. But on his political point, can I propose
political point
that he waits for the inquiry to report?
Susan Webb.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I recently visited my local job centre and I'm absolutely pleased to announce that the adult claimant count is down 28% and the young adult claimant count is down 40%. Will
Adult
the Prime
claimant
Minister
count.
join me in thanking all the hard work of the Stourbridge Job Centre for their dedication to actually
mate, what a
achieve
clown he
these
is.
results and also to contribute to the jobs revival that's happening
The Alliance
across the
Party,
West
where's that,
Midlands.
Northern Ireland?
61,000 new jobs since March 2021.
Wow, new jobs. How many jobs did we lose because of the pandemic, though? And because of your party's incompetence?
Yes, indeed, Mr. Speaker, and I thank her for that. And it's notable that the opposition don't like to dwell on these points, but it is an astonishing fact that we have 420,000 more people in work now than before the pandemic began, and youth unemployment at a record low, Mr. Speaker.
Stephen Bonner.
Still got record vacancies, though, pal.
Mr. Speaker, another week, another scandal for this Prime Minister.
Hey, I like this man.
Shameless government.
Hey.
For 2 years, my constituents made sacrifice after sacrifice, spending time away from our loved ones, missing out on important life events. Some paid the ultimate sacrifice while he partied away.
Nice.
Figures released just last night show that 79% of people in Scotland think the Prime Minister should step down. Does the Prime Minister now realise that it's clear to all that, while he may not understand how to be socially distant from others, there is no doubt that he is morally distant from the rest of us across these nations? And the best
That's so much better than we have a Prime Minister who is socially distant from the truth. That's such a much better line. Morally distant. That's way
thing
better.
you can do now is go. Resign, Prime Minister.
Resign.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the honourable member for the SNP, and I repeat the point that I've made earlier on. I don't think that he should preempt or anticipate the inquiry.
My G.
Preempt or anticipate the inquiry.
My G. Respect.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Colne Valley Regional Park runs through my constituency and the Prime Minister's. Would
Is she American?
my right honourable friend join me in paying tribute to the volunteers who tirelessly work to preserve this precious green space? And will he work with me to create better protections for this park moving forward?
There's an American in Parliament. Didn't know that.
I certainly will. I join her in thanking the wonderful volunteers, and I will do what I can to assist her in protecting this
I don't forget
beautiful
Jimmy.
green space.
Ruth Kepley.
We'll go for, well, there's 11 people now. We'll go for about another 6 minutes. We'll see if anything good comes out of this.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On a different topic to that of my right honourable friend, the Leader of the Opposition, but a related
Why are you changing topic?
Last week at Prime Minister's Questions, the Prime Minister was asked about his previous claim about that his previous claims about inflation were unfounded, and in his reply, he told the House he had said no such thing. But within minutes, the inevitable happened, and people were watching videos on social media saying exactly that.
I would have played the video.
So would the Prime Minister like to take this opportunity to correct the record and apologise for misleading the House on this matter?
I would come with the quotes. But okay, it's a good question. All right, I was a bit mean to her, but okay, that's fine. Good job there. But I don't know her name, but yeah, good job.
That would be inadvertently misleading the House, Prime Minister.
Oh, look at him, Mr. Knight in shining armour there, stepping in.
Mr. Speaker, because I immediately said in my answer to the question that, of course, you had to be concerned about inflation at all times. What I said I think on TV was that some of the predictions then about inflation had not proved well founded. But clearly, inflation is a serious risk. It is going up, and what we need is a strategy to tackle it, and that's what we have.
It's not really what he said, though, was it? I mean, she should be allowed to come back on that.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My constituent, Grant Bailey, went back to Afghanistan in September. He disappeared in December around Christmas time. We think the Taliban have him. Can my right honourable friend advise me and his family whether he knows anything about this man, who has him, and what is being done to get him home?
It's tragic. That's tragic.
Prime Minister. I thank my honourable friend and for raising the case with me, and I hope I will organise a meeting for him with the relevant minister as soon as possible to establish what we can do to help.
Stood right next to it. Sat right next to him.
He's not apologised, Mr. Speaker, for breaking the rules.
Oh, he's going to be like, oh, well, you see, we have to wait for the inquiry to come out, and once we have done that, then the right honourable gentleman can feel free to ask whatever questions he wishes to ask.
The law. He's sorry because he's been caught.
Hey, not bad.
He is bang to rights.
And we have to wait for the investigation to happen.
My constituents were making unimaginable decisions. He was hosting a boozy party.
Bring your own booze
in
party.
Downing Street. So how does he think?
He looks like a child who's being caught eating sweets when his mum has told him not to, like, honestly. Dominic Raab whispering words of support in his ear, though.
Think he can still maintain the one rule for him and another for the rest of us? He cannot.
Someone needs to ask him, how long is this investigation going to take? And is he going to roadblock it by just declining interviews with Sue Gray? That's what he could do.
He must resign.
Mr. Speaker, I refer to the answer I gave earlier on.
Ah, boo. Mr. Peter Bone.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. This Friday, my private member's bill...
He's actually stood up in a relevant time. Surprising.
BBC licence fee abolition gets its second reading. It will abolish...
They want to get rid of the BBC.
The BBC licence fee and require the BBC to be funded by subscription.
Like Channel 4
in this day and
or
age,
Netflix.
it's ridiculous to have a state broadcaster.
No, it's not.
It's ridiculous that people are forced to pay a fee just because they have a television.
Kind of,
and
yeah.
what is totally wrong...
That's not actually true, though. You're not forced to pay a fee if you have a television. You're forced to pay... You have to pay a fee if you watch live television. So he's just misled the House there, really. You know, fair enough, it's a bit of a nitpick, but still.
That people who believe the BBC to be
That's why Freeview exists.
Biased have
towards
to
your party,
subsidise them.
towards your party, biased towards
Mr.
your party.
Speaker, will the Prime Minister, if he's free on Friday, come along and support the bill?
I don't know, if he does support the bill, will the BBC kind of actually call him out, though? That's the thing. Because at that point, the government, they don't owe the government anything. You know, right now, the government does hold power over the BBC to an extent. And if the government decide to go after the BBC again, will the BBC be like, nah, screw you, man, we're done with this? You know, will they make it like Channel 4 is, which is, you know, sort of run by itself for the most part?
Mr. Speaker, I have the highest respect for the media judgment of my honourable friend.
What expertise does Peter Oborne have in the media, apart from appearing on Newsnight all the time?
I understand some of his strictures about the BBC, Mr. Speaker. I would also say that it is a great national institution, but I will study what he has to say with interest.
Ha! Study? You don't do homework, son.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We've all had Prime Ministers that we disagreed with or we didn't rate, but there's never been one that debased the office in the way that this... He's now forced to lie down in the back of his car to keep away from photographers. We all know the Prime Minister was sacked from 2 previous jobs.
After this, guys, the ones that are here, I've got a video on Kazakhstan that's just dropped. Can you guys watch that, please, if you feel so inclined to do so?
So can he explain to the House why he believes that the great office of Prime Minister can be held to a lower standard than those previous jobs that he was sacked from?
Hey, oh, okay, that was a good question actually. Let's see. Let's go back a bit. That seemed like a great question there. Let's go.
With or we didn't rate, but there's never been one that debased the office in the way that this. He's now forced to lie down in the back of his car to keep away from photographers. We all know the Prime Minister was sacked from 2 previous jobs for lying.
The Telegraph.
So can he
I
explain
can't
to
remember
the
the other one.
House why he believes that the great office of Prime Minister can be held to a lower standard than those previous jobs that he was sacked from?
I refer to my previous answer.
Well, I welcome the point that the honourable gentleman makes. In the partisan spirit with which I think it was intended.
Partisan, political.
I don't agree with him, but can I suggest to him respectfully that he waits until the inquiry is concluded, which I hope will be as soon as possible.
Alberto Costa.
Washing machine manufacturers are considering installing microfiber filter systems in all new washing machines. Will the Prime Minister ask his ministers?
Why?
Will the Prime Minister
Was that
ask
Theresa May
his ministers to look at...
We've got a slight problem. Some of you want to catch my eye. The longer this question takes, the less other people will get in. Alberto Costa.
People laughing at plastic pollution, Mr. Speaker.
You man don't care about the environment, though, do you? Don't pretend you do. Have you seen the state of our rivers and the seaside? Clown.
Will the Prime Minister ask his ministers to look into the viability of my bill, which has cross-party support and seeks to introduce inexpensive microplastic filters on all new washing machines?
Well, I want to thank
Why are you
my
doing this,
honourable
bro?
friend.
Why now?
This is a campaign, and I believe that we should tackle microplastic pollution, Mr. Speaker. And I'm glad that DEFRA are looking at the introduction of legislation for microfiber filters on washing machines as a cost-beneficial solution. And I will make sure that my right honourable friend, Secretary of State for the Environment, will keep him informed of how we're doing.
George Eustace, that is, I think.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I too wish to join colleagues in paying tribute to Jack Dromey. I knew him first in the early 70s and worked with him on the Grunwick strike. He will be greatly missed. Mr. Speaker, thousands of men and women in Afghanistan supported the NATO mission, and they have been abandoned.
Yep.
In 6 months, we don't have a credible route to help people out of Afghanistan safely. The most recent update from the FCDO is directly contradicted by the UN. While the FCDO claims that from spring the UNHCR will make referrals to evacuation schemes, the UNHCR's own website is very clear they make no such referrals. Mr. Speaker, is the government creating a Kafkaesque system to intentionally fail those we owe something to? Or is this yet another case of the amateurism and hopelessness that prioritized pen farthings pets over human beings?
Mr. Speaker, I believe he does a serious injustice to the efforts of local councils up and down the country to look after people coming from Afghanistan, and I think he does an injustice to the efforts of the UK. We are proud already under Operation Pitting to have evacuated 15,000.
Bro, there's no safe route for people trying to get asylum out of Afghanistan. Like, don't try and claim success.
People from Afghanistan, Mr. Speaker, and we've allocated 286 million in aid, in assistance for people in Afghanistan, and we are continuing to offer safe passage to this country from Afghanistan.
Paul Holmes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister will be aware that Eastleigh was formed as a railway town, from producing locomotives and carriages to building gliders for the D-Day landings. Eastleigh has a proud railway heritage. Given this pedigree, the excellent transport links and the need to level up the south, does he agree with me that Eastleigh would make the perfect home for the new headquarters of Great British Railways?
Need to level up the south.
Well, Mr. Speaker, my honourable friend is a great champion for Eastleigh, and as I told the House earlier, further details of the competition to identify the new Great British Railways headquarters will be announced in the coming weeks.
Mr. Speaker, in my constituency of Stockport, the average rent for a two-bedroom property is an unaffordable £800. And recently, in the last 13 years, the rents have been significantly increasing. One constituent contacted me recently to explain that she and her husband, who are in their 70s and suffer from ill health, have just been served with a Section 21 notice after living in the property for almost 20 years.
Wow.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister's own manifesto promised a better deal for renters, which included abolishing no-fault evictions. So when will he scrap this practice and reintroduce the much-needed Renters Reform Bill, which seems to have been kicked into the long grass?
Good question, good question.
Well, Mr. Speaker, one of the first things I did when I became Prime Minister was to uprate local housing allowance so that people on social rent would be able to afford where they live more easily as a key component of tackling the cost of living, Mr. Speaker. But what we're also doing is building record numbers of homes, Mr. Speaker, and I was very pleased to see a huge increase in the number of people able to get the homes that they need. But the point that he makes about renters is also very, very important, and that's why we're tackling the rights of renters as well.
Jack Brereton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
What I'll do is we'll leave PMQs here. I'm just on Twitter, so you can't actually see what I'm looking at, but if we go through a couple of the tweets that I'm seeing, one is from Sima Kotecha, saying the High Court rules government use of VIP lane to give contracts for supply of PPE to two companies during the first wave of the pandemic was unlawful. You got Lewis Goodall saying 3 big problems to the Prime Minister's explanation. It is credible he was there for 25 minutes and not realised it was a social event. I mean, there was wine and cheese there. That's a dead giveaway. Email makes it clear it was a social event because bring your own booze, definitely a social event right there. Because he's maintaining he thought is within the rules, apology wasn't comprehensive. Third problem is a political problem with his MPs. Prime Minister has also reiterated his view that everyone should wait for the result of the inquiry, which is buying him time, but which enscones him more firmly in Sue Gray's hands. But the thing is, I think Sue Gray won't really find much on it. I think they're going to stonewall her. Was anyone else in any other line of work invited to a bring your own booze to a work meeting during the height of lockdown? No, because I'm not one of the cool kids, unfortunately. Prime Minister repeats, this from Laura Koonsberg, even she's calling him out a bit, saying the Prime Minister repeats, I thought it was a work event, hard for that to tally when there were around 30 people there. The event was organised as a drinks do. And you got the High Court ruling, someone complaining about, asking about a park, see if there's anything else interesting. There's an apparent Labour councillor with some racism. Dear Met Police, this from Julian Rubinstein, the great one himself, saying, Dear Met Police, I'd like to report Boris Johnson, who just admitted to attending a lockdown-breaking party event. I mean, they're going to say wait for Sue Gray, but if the Met do investigate, it delays Sue Gray's investigations. It's astonishing when you think about it. Just 2 years after Johnson secured a historic Tory victory, we are sitting here discussing whether he's going to survive as PM. I mean, it's a very short-lived premiership, really. So yeah, Boris, I thought it was a work event. It's giving me, it was just straightforward shooting week. I don't know what that's a reference to. See if there's anything more. So if the defendant presents a defence and the prosecutor looks like this, is that a good sign for the defendant? So yeah, I mean, Starmer did well. You know, even Owen Jones giving him credit, it may have been an open goal, but Starmer nonetheless decisively scored. Boris Johnson has been lying for weeks about this, and he's still lying. Can we all read the email invite? We can all read the email invite. It makes it clear it's a social event, not a work event. So yeah, you know, it's very clear that Johnson is getting absolutely hammered by everyone, pretty much. Even the presses have gone after him. I mean, look at this, the state of this. That's a full house right there. I think that's pretty much all the major papers and tabloids going after him. Even the goddamn Yorkshire Press. or Yorkshire Post. Who's even heard of them? So yeah, you know, have we got any more comments? Boris's sister said he bullied David Cameron when they were at school. Shock. Same thing happened to Gurkhas. It's the same to Afghanistan or worse. The North will never forget. Game of Thrones. Stonewall worse than Trump. Yeah, do you know what? Just thinking, we'll probably call it a day here because I've got loads of other video projects I need to get on with. So yeah, we'll probably call it here. But yeah, I've got a video that's just come out about the situation in Kazakhstan. If you guys could watch that, that'd be great because it's not going to do that well. Yeah, really not going to do that well. So if you guys could watch that, that'd be fun. That'd be nice of y'all. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. If you're going to watch this back after it's played, I think it's about an hour we've been going for. About an hour? Over an hour. Yeah, if you watch this, replay it, you know, let me know what you think. But yeah, honestly, not great really. I mean, if you guys want to see more of these, I might do a few more PMQ live streams. Depends. I need to schedule out the week a lot better because I've just been slacking off for a while. I shouldn't have taken a long break and the weekend off. But yeah, I'll catch you guys next time.